I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for May 1st, 2024. Roll call, please.
Arel. Budke.
Here.
Kleva.
Present.
Kuhn. Lunsky.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
Reichert.
Here.
Sandy. Here. Wasvik.
Here. Look,
And we have a quorum and Arel is on as well.
all right, sounds good. Reading and approval from the minutes of the April 3rd, 2024 meeting. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Budke. Any further discussion on the minutes? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meetings are approved as submitted. Public hearings, final approvals, petitions, and minor changes.
3-1, Plat of Palace Estates First Edition, located at 6500 block of South 20th Street with street and highway ordinance dedication.
Ms. Grasser.
Good evening. So tonight we're seeking final approval for the plat and the rezone. Shown here is the plat. We're adding the 22 lots just west of Hutton Drive. We are dedicating this portion of Hudson Drive and a section of 69th Ave South over here. We are also adding 5-foot drainage easements along the west side here, and here. And we did, just a note about the impervious, go from 50 to 40, just to correlate each other with the other Grand Valley lots as well. And with that, the rezone, we are going from A2 to R1. I'll stand for any questions.
Is there a sign up out there?
Yes.
Because I saw one over in that area that was blown down, been down for about 6 months.
Did you pick
By
it up?
62nd,
No,
wasn't it?
I was gonna take a picture.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Any discussion
First
on
and
4-1? Yep, absolutely, jeepers, you're on me. With nothing so far to Ms. Grasser, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody in the audience like to step up and address 3-1, please do so at this time. Seeing nobody, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the... I'm sorry, did somebody say something? Okay, with that, close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Lunsky. Any further discussion? Seeing no hands, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion 3-1 passes. 3-2.
3-2, ordinance to amend zoning map, rezoning from A2 Agricultural Reserve District to Grand Valley PUD Concept Amendment Number 1, single-family R1 uses for all lots platted as Palace Estates First Edition, located at 6500 block of South 20th Street.
All right, anything for Ms. Grasser before I open the public hearing? All right, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody want to step up and address 3-2, do so at this time? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Second.
I saw Mr. Mattson's hand up. Did you want to say something, or were you seconding it? Okay. Second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 3-2 passes. Communications and preliminary approvals, 4-1.
4-1, plat of Corinta Fourth Edition, located at 4000 block of 27th Avenue North with street and highway ordinance dedication.
Mr. Brooks.
Thank you. So this area is up on 27th Avenue North. It's the north road that's that you see up at the very top here. On the west side is that CHS, I believe, is just over here, and then the railroad tracks is just off the map here. This is in the Corinta property that's being platted. It's the areas that are north of Simplot. This is all under an annexation agreement, not to be annexed into the city until they have been platted. And in this case, the plat is before us, pretty simple plat, grabbing the right-of-way that's required, and then the next item is the annexation of that entire area, and it's actually going to fill in one of those islands that we have up in that area. So feeling pretty good about that. So that's this item. Happy to stand for any questions that you may have.
So let's talk about all of them like we typically do and break them apart and vote on them after. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Brooks? Not seeing a lot of, oh, go ahead, Mr. Clava.
Did the owner apply for the annexation, or are they requesting it?
Yeah, so as part of this, they're going to be requesting city services, and to get that, you do need, it's required that you have to be annexed into the city.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clava. Anyone else? Not seeing anything. We've already read 4-1 in. We'll take that one first. Anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert,
Second.
second by Mr. Mattson. Any further discussion? Not seeing anything. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 4-1 passes. 4-2, could we read that in, please?
4-2, annexation of Carenta 4th Edition located at 4000 block of 27th Avenue North.
All right. Any comments? Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mattson. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. 4-2 passes unanimously. 4-3, please read that in.
4-3, annexation of Lot 8, Block 1, Danks 2nd Re-subdivision located at 1500 South 42nd Street.
All right, same progress. Mr. Reichert.
Move approval.
Moved by Mr. Reichert, second by Mr. Lunsky. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed, same sign. 4-3 passes unanimously. Reports from the planning department.
We just have Mr. Grasser is going to talk a little bit on the 47th Avenue interchange and where some of those accesses will be. I'll turn it over to him.
Mr. Grasser.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. This happens to have been in the media here the last week or so, talking about the 47th interchange. We passed a significant milepost here on the project, which has been under development for a couple of years. They talked about the IJR, as the Interstate Justification Report. That's the last step, basically, of review by Federal Highway, in which they look at the project, they look at all the analysis that had been done to date, and say, yes, we think we can accept this project without having undue impacts on the interstate system. And that puts it in the queue then for basically future funding for the project. Funding on this is going to be out quite a ways. The DOT has a number of interchanges lined up across the interstate, so we're probably not actually into construction till we're calling it about 2029, might be plus or minus a year. The first activity they have for funding is actually out in 2026, which would be the start of property acquisition. But for purposes of the commission, I wanted you to just wanted to review a little bit the interchange itself, because we had good news in that we have the interchange in the queue. There are some impacts, though, to where some of the local roads are going to be allowed to have signalized intersections and such. So we wanted to review that quickly. Again, the interchange itself is on alignment on 47th Avenue. There was a time a look at shifting it south because Federal Highway has concerns about interchanges being within a mile of each other, and that has to do with traffic that's speeding up to enter the interstate and then exiting the next ramp. They're concerned about that weaving and the safety aspects of those traffic speeds. I'll talk about that again here in a little bit. So the ramp, the interchange itself is on alignment right on 47th. It's got the typical on and off ramps, and what's gotten to be pretty typical now too are the interior loops. Gives a couple of different ways to get on and off the interchange. At this point in time, the interchange would not be signalized, They're basically building the interchange at this point, and they'll come back and add signals after traffic justifies, meets warrants is the term we use in the traffic engineering world. It meets the warrants that would justify it from a traffic use standpoint and/or pedestrians, whatever the trigger might be. So for now, the idea is that it would be built without the signalization. You can see in here there would be provisions for pedestrians. This line here is the pedestrian bike path. It goes under the ramp, up over the top. On the west side, it actually stays at grade, and that's because traffic as it's coming off the interstate is going to be coming to a stop. So you don't have the same safety concerns you would have on the other side where traffic is accelerating than going through that intersection. Probably the biggest issue here is the proximity of the closest signalized intersection. The DOT's preferred location for the first intersection would be a half a mile. That would mean your first intersection is basically over here at Columbia Road. We did get them to accept the minimum spacing, which is a quarter mile, but that still moves on the east side, that moves 38th Street out into this vicinity. You can see the existing 38th is farther to the west. And we did carry that for a long time where we thought 38th would be able to essentially come more or less straight down. But this is the minimum spacing that they'll allow. So there's quite a bit of a shift on 38th. You see the same concept happening on the west side here with the shift for 42nd. 42nd will tie in here and it'll shift all the way over. We had originally thought that 48th Street would tie in pretty much here on its current alignment. This graphic doesn't show that, but again, the closest shift then, they want a certain spacing between signalized intersections also, not just from the ramp, and that's going to drive 48th Street to be, just off of this drawing. Jumping back to the east side again, if we don't get whiplash. So when we apply the state and federal requirements for traffic signal spacing, the next allowable space for a traffic signal would be over here, which doesn't fit in very well with the kind of the way things have been set up at this point. We have 34th Street, which would have made some sense. Even 30th Street in here could have made some sense. These are not going to be allowed. At best, they'll be probably a 3/4 intersection, which means it's a right in, right out, left in, and it restricts the left turns out. And that probably is even a discussion whether they'll allow that or if it's simply right in and right out. So bottom line is that the configuration of the roadways out here will have greater spacing than probably what we're used to in a lot of our corridors. If you look at it, a lot of our traffic signals are less than quarter mile spacing as we get into full development. So this will drive the development configurations obviously to the north. It'll also impact developments as you go south. Again, the developers will need to look at, how do we want to configure this road? Once we get off of this actual alignment, the DOT doesn't care, how we arrange those particularly. I did just, I met with one of the property owners actually just today, and also with his typical development engineer, Mike Corman, CPS, and we just chatted about it to make him aware of what the restrictions are, because he'll have to envision then how the development from his perspective will build out with these restrictions in place. But at least for future awareness from this commission, you kind of see some of the restrictions or the requirements that we'll have to be meeting from the DOT and federal highway side as development starts to occur out here. With that, I don't know that I have anything to add. I'll open it up to any kind of questions that I might be able to answer.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Grasser? He covered it so well. Mr. Eichert?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. So the first intersection as we go east off, that's the closest we can put it to the interstate, right?
Right, they require basically a quarter mile to the
And then-
first intersection.
And then what's the next one?
The next one would be here.
So why do you have the one drawn between those two?
We think that they will allow the three-quarter intersections. I was talking about a full open signalized intersection. Those are to me often desirable in order to be able to get, people in and out of those developments. So these two, and I apologize, this particular drawing, some of the drawings we had show this as being, a three-quarter, so that is a little confusing, but this intersection here, I'll call it 30th Street, and this intersection here, I'll call it 34th Street, would be restricted and not full intersections.
Okay, and no matter if we have that one there or not, the next one
This one?
is as far west as it can be, so it can't line up with whatever that little stub road coming out of that development is?
Right. Correct. And this is from a development standpoint, it was never really contemplated or planned to be there. This is a bike path pedestrian corridor here. This is just the beginning of a road that was, really just meant to tie in, I think, to the development to the south. This one here will have a challenge I can see in the future, meeting warrants. Because usually you've got to have certain traffic from various directions in order to justify the signal.
I'll just throw more around.
This thing in here is going to almost be like a T. T intersection is very
So
hard.
we won't have a light at that first one or the second one then?
Your lights will be.
I'm sorry, yeah,
will be
we'll have
here.
one there, yep.
Yep,
And then the next two we won't, correct?
right. More than likely, the next three.
Okay, good.
This would
Yeah,
be,
I was going to say, good.
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. This one could be allowed by their criteria, but it just doesn't really fit in with the
Doesn't make
development as
sense.
it sits there today. So, there'll be discussions, but the DOT has gotten very firm. They hadn't in the past, and that's why you see some of those spacings, but they said, nope, we're following the criteria.
Yeah.
And again, that dictates the first signal from the ramp and then the spacing within the corridors.
Okay. And we're not requiring this road to come in curved, are we?
Are you, which one are you
The
talking?
first, go east again. First-
38th?
Yep,
No, this could be,
Could be
you could
straight
put
and
sharper
then-
turn, you could put straight and a jog and back over. Typically for a classified street like this that's going to carry traffic and trucks, you generally want to have as gradual a turns as you can. You also want to tie into
Well, I'm
your
just wondering if there's
your
something else
intersections
you
at
can tie
right
into.
angles. So that's just kind of how this developed, but the exact configuration of that, the curvatures of those are up to us to develop.
and so the developer can come in with whatever they want there, or, okay. And then same thing on the one on the west of the interstate, that could be, we could change that to a different, we don't have really many roads over there, do we?
The one on the west, I have an unknown on your question, that the DOT drew it up this way, and it's my understanding that they will, whether they do it themselves or required of us, I'm not exactly sure, but because 42nd is an existing road, they have to relocate that road as part of the interchange. And so they would be following this alignment. Again, I think they're concerned with where is, if we want to come up with a different geometry on this thing, I think there's opportunities to do that if there was a desire to. They're looking at it from a typical standpoint, again, sweeping curves, easy to navigate with trucks, et cetera, and hitting this target point. That's as close as they can get.
So when we talk major arterial, minor arterial, feeder, et cetera, what would you consider 42nd to be now, and what would you hope it to be in the future?
I think it's designated a minor arterial right now, and I would see it, it's always hard to differentiate between a minor arterial and a major arterial. Easiest way to think about the major arterial might be more like a 4-lane road. I have a hard time envisioning that'll ever actually turn into a 4-lane, just because it only connects to 32nd down to 47th at this point in time.
But I mean, I hope we're planning to have some major arterial west of the interstate, and let's make that a straight instead of a curved, right? I mean, so we could just make this straight, take 42nd, leave it as a minor arterial, that it's just a frontage road, really, not going to have much traffic, and then not have any curves in there, right? Does that make sense?
I don't know
Well,
how
and try
much
to get something
flexibility
where somebody
they'll,
can build something is what you're going for, right?
Right.
Yeah, not try to build on a funky lot again.
You're not going to acquire all that land in that.
no. And I would guess there
No,
might
they're
be,
just gonna
there
be
might
in
be
the
an opportunity to
Overleaf
say,
stuff, right?
you know, if
So
we
you're not
wanted to
gonna want that major
square
road
this
running
off,
through
for
there.
instance, and maybe tie it into 48th, this could end up being a signalized intersection. They're only concerned with the minimum location.
We could just move it out.
I think we could. They're under some obligations to maintain and restore the traffic network, so it depends on how they feel that they're able to maintain their obligations in that regard. But I think if we had agreement between, you know, the city, planning and zoning, and property owner, I mean, I would think there's certainly going to be opportunities there.
As long as everybody gets a
Yeah.
say in it, not just like you said, the DOT comes and says, oh, we're gonna redo
Right.
the road here.
Right. And just so, I mean, we're going to be developing this north to south, so, I mean, we got to be, I mean, 32nd is where we got to start really thinking, where are these roads, where are we letting the roads come south?
Yeah. We don't show it on this drawing, but most of that road network in this area from 32nd is already established.
On both sides?
Pretty much, yeah. 48th, well, we haven't extended 48th south of 32nd, but we've extended it to the north, so 48th is going to pretty much have to extend. I think,
And where will that
reasonably.
end up? That'll end up where that sort of tree line or ditch or
Yeah,
whatever it
48th
is?
would actually be,
Perfect.
this is part of the pencil line in here.
Yeah, so I think we should focus on making that our first signalized intersection, or our first intersection, and then figure out a way to tie 42nd into that.
Again, I think there's going to be, as this begins to be under design, I think there's going to be an opportunity to talk, especially with the
Yeah.
property owner, you know,
Right.
what works
Yep.
best for their development plans. Again, we have more flexibility on the east side because they aren't required to tie this road in. It doesn't exist. And so, you know, we have more flexibility. They're required to maintain the connectivity basically of 42nd. You know, right now 42nd just goes all the way through, right? So they're required to make sure that that reconnects. This is the concept that
But
they've
the
got.
developer could say, I don't want it to, couldn't he?
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't think that.
Well,
I
they
don't-
could vacate the
Because this
road.
is a public road, it's not owned by anybody, and they have to maintain there's more interested parties than just the property owner.
And you're gonna have to buy all that land.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Grasser. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Grasser.
Is that it? Thank you.
Ms. Grasser.
Quick monthly update for you guys. We had 2 site plans approved in the month of May. A Blue Star building, which is just a warehouse, North Washington, kind of where it meets Columbia Road. And then Spectra Health parking lot, you maybe have seen under construction, was also approved, and they've already started that parking lot and main entrance area.
All right, thank you. Ms. Edwardson.
Evening. I just had a quick update from the ADU discussion we had last month. We brought it forward to the Committee of the Whole on the 22nd, I believe, and had a good discussion with them on the topic. The feedback from the council or the committee was to, much the same as we've heard at the commission level, was to try to not alter existing neighborhood character by allowing additional units in the neighborhoods, even if they are accessory and in garages. The consensus from the council was that even that increment could potentially change our existing neighborhoods, and there wasn't a desire to touch those. So the feedback given was plan for it in new developments, but let's let our existing ones stay the way they are and give those property owners that expectation that they have with their current zoning. So the feedback was to not pursue any PUD or code change from that level. So we aren't planning to go forward anything with that point, but did want to give you an update, just where kind of they stood on the policy and their direction there. So could try to answer any questions if you have any, or just a quick update.
Mr. Budke?
Yeah. The developer that was here, I guess, last month for their informational, what are their plans now, having heard that the committee of the whole?
Yeah, technically, they still have the option to ask for an appeal of some sort. That's always a property owner's right. The feedback given to them, given council's direction, I mean, staff couldn't recommend approval of any requests, given what council's kind of directed that policy to be at. And so my understanding is they're going to let that project kind of sit, because, you know, the feeling kind of and the hope is maybe we're not there yet. Maybe it's not a done deal totally. I mean, for the council it is at this point in time, but maybe in a few years' time, if there's other housing options that are pursued, and maybe this is something to relook at in the future in years come. So at this point in time, it's I don't think they're going to pursue it. They've got other property in projects and some R3 and R4 districts that it would already be possible, so they're going to look at those. But in this particular R2 case, they're not going to pursue it, so.
Okay, yeah, I guess that's unfortunate. I think it's too bad that the committee of the whole saw fit to essentially spike a development that was ready to go. I guess I'll just share a couple of thoughts. I watched the committee of the whole meeting, and I have to say it was kind of disappointing to hear how the discussion went. I think in contrast to the meeting we had a month ago, I thought it was pretty open, a lot of possibilities, and then I thought that group wasn't. I thought it sounded like there was kind of some fundamental misunderstandings, like there were questions about towing in trailers and buying sheds from Menards that just didn't seem to be what we were talking about at all. I think maybe most poignant, though, is there was a comment made, again, a month ago at the Planning and Zoning about a gentleman said, everybody talks about affordable housing and nobody's doing anything about it. And I felt like this was a huge missed opportunity. I guess I have a few different a few different thoughts on it, but I generally felt like we're not really meeting the moment where there's a pretty acute housing affordability issue. So I guess I'm sorry to ramble, but maybe I'll ask this: the Blue Ribbon Commission that was referenced.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then pretty immediately poo-pooed, I thought, in that meeting. Is there any plan to reconvene it, to update it?
I mean, certainly at our staff level, we have housing as a priority to try to keep tap on. I don't know that anybody in the community is rallying the Blue Ribbon Commission in its form or fashion. For the others on the commission, City Council undertook a Blue Ribbon Housing Commission back in 2012 and did an update, I want to say, a couple years after that, which kind of looked at different housing options that were pursued and kind of implemented from a service standpoint to a tracking of things. That's how the housing dashboard kind of came about. And so we certainly still reference the Housing Commission because some of those ideas and suggestions are still relevant today. But I don't know that there's been like maybe a call to action like there was to initiate that initial Blue Ribbon at this point in moment. Certainly housing is always on our minds and topics. I mean, we track the building permits to kind of keep a pulse on how many starts are we doing each year, how far are we maybe below our average, how far are we not. But to your point, no, I don't know of any group that's doing a call to action to particularly address housing again. The comment at council was they couldn't find that report online, which we're working to get posted so it can be referenced. It is, more than 10 years old now, but some of those solutions and options are still relevant. So we're going to work to get that back online, so.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Butke. Any other business? Seeing none, call for adjournment on this thing.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, do I have a second? Second? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.